Thanks, Robin, and welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining from. I think we've got participants joining from all over the globe. So thank you for being here with us. I am particularly excited about today's webinar because it is the first time that the International Land Conservation Network is hosting a webinar focusing on Denmark. And I think it's going to be a really interesting series of presentations and insights that will be shared on how private landowners and nonprofit organizations are working to complement public protected areas and public land conservation efforts to really advance that whole of society approach to conservation efforts for the protection of nature. My name's Chandni Navalka. I'm the Director of Conservation and Stewardship at the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, which is the host of the International Land Conservation Network. And I am delighted to pass it over now to Angelo Salsi, who will be moderating today's webinar. Angelo is the co-chair of Eurosite's Nature Finance and Private Land Conservation Working Group and an ILCN steering committee member and longtime friend. So Angelo, with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Johnny, thanks a lot. Welcome to everyone. So the subject of today is private land conservation experience and expertise in Denmark. But first, let's browse through what's happening at global level, and then we hand it over to our Danish friends. So I have been in business now with private land conservation for quite a long time. I must say it has been a very enjoyable journey so far, and I've learned a lot of things, starting from the key starting point, which is private land conservation seems to be a particular way of protecting land, which is typical of Anglo-Saxon countries. This is largely true. At the same time, we have examples of private land conservation elsewhere, but we must admit that our friends in the US, in Canada, in Australia, and so on, they were among the first, if not the first, and certainly they were the one that used to its best the various tools that allow for private land conservation. One among the many, the easements. Easements have been in place for quite a long time in the US, and this has been the how can I say the trampoline to move the whole scene of private land conservation from a few anecdotic attempts to a systematic approach, which is now covering millions of acres across the US, and it's further expanding, and not only in common law countries, which is the first thing that we were sort of fearing, because there are certain elements of private land conservation which are typical of common law governance mechanism, juridical mechanism. The next example I would like to bring to your attention is on the other side of the American continent, so Chile. Chile went through a very interesting exercise of modification of their constitution and legal setup to allow an easement-similar approach, which is called the Derecho Real de Conservación, which is now in place and working since several years rather successfully. And as you know, Chile is civil code. So this already shows that indeed private land conservation is an approach that can be applied across the very different jurisdictional type of approaches that we have across the globe. Now let's jump from the US, Australia, and so on. Let's jump to good old Europe. If we zoom in on Europe, we see immediately that Europe is a great place to live. At the same time, it's a very, how can I say, a very hectic place to try to do things. Why? Because every country, every member state, especially in the European Union, has retained a large capacity to manage their own business, typically fiscal approach and land tenure are things which are totally in the hands of member states. And this already gives you as an output that we have at least 27 possible mechanisms to drive us into private land conservation. Then we are not happy enough. Many of our countries are based on federal systems, and this ensures that we not only have country level fiscal regime and jurisdictional regime for land tenure, but we might have them at regional level. So you start multiplying the 27 by a number of regions, and there you go, how many possible schemes we could have. Probably one of the first and the best example of private land conservation, we have to go back to Spain. Spain has institutionalized a scheme that they call the land stewardship. It covers more than 500,000 hectares already currently, and it has been working since more than 10 years. France has, recently already, it's close to 10 years ago, 5 years ago, they have adopted a legislation which mimics, to a certain extent, the easements approach from the United States. So every country has its own mechanism. Some have more, some have very little, like my own country, Italy. It's certainly not one of the front runners in this area. And now we go back to the scope of this meeting. So Denmark also has gained experience, expertise, and in this particular area, and they are here today to share with us. So we hope that not only we will learn about successful experiences in Denmark, but also that we will learn about the possibility to replicate and learn from our Danish friends and transpose into other countries of the European Union. And maybe one day we will also have an easement scheme like the US at the EU level. But this is, for the moment, is still science fiction. So I'll pass it over now to our friends to talk.
I'll jump in and just invite Monica from Eurosite to give a brief introduction as well. Thank you, Angela.
You're welcome.
Hi, thank you, Robin. Yes, so my name is Monica Vidal. I work for Eurosite as a project officer. And I just wanted to give you a small introduction about what is Eurosite doing here with ILCN and what is the story about us working in private land conservation. So if you can move to the next slide. So just to give you an overview that Eurosite serves now as the International Land Conservation Network's regional representative in Europe, which has come from our earlier efforts to establish a community of land conservation practitioners across Europe in 2017, which later was embedded into Eurosite as the way we work. So in the next slide, you'll see that we work together to develop a strong community of European land conservation practitioners. And our main role in this story is to act as a trainer, travel agent, advocate, expert, and broker and librarian for nature conservation or land conservation practitioners across Europe. Right now, we are a membership organization with a total of 80 members, representing a total of 26 European countries in Europe, or European countries beyond the EU, I mean. And we work together with at least 10 strategic partners, including the ELO, the European Landowners Organization. And in the next slide, you'll see our overview of partners. You can skip this one. Next slide. The partners which we work together on private land conservation are mainly our International Land Conservation Network and the European Landowners Organization. And we work on several strategic projects to advance private land conservation in the EU and in Europe. with a few of our earlier projects, LIFE ELCN, LIFE EN PLC, which focus on creating this network for private land conservation. And now a few other projects which focus on how to actually implement private land conservation in Europe within the regulatory frameworks of each country, because as you know, that is diverse. And also on a project on the policy level, which is the Horizon Mosaic. And we also have our working group on nature, finance, and private land conservation, which is co-chaired by Angelo here. So for this specific webinar, we are focusing on private land conservation and using LIFE Orchids as an example, to give you an idea of the context in Denmark. Yeah, within our work on private land conservation, we've identified these 5 domains where we need to work, mainly on funding, knowledge, awareness, engagement, and finally to test and improve tools for implementing private land conservation in Europe. And in that sense, we've created together with the European Landowners Organization, the Conservation for Landowners Coalition. And in the next slide, you'll see, yeah. So we wanted to bring you the context of Denmark with LIFE Orchids, which is a project focused on restoration of dry grasslands in Denmark. And our partners from LIFE Orchids will be very happy to give you an idea of their local context, how they implement private land conservation tools. So without any further ado, I'll hand it over to Karsten. Karsten, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Monica, and thank you all for letting us join this interesting webinar. I will just okay, yep, that's better now. I can see my presentation. Perfect. Okay, welcome to Denmark. I will just start to say that to give you some few facts from Denmark, and then we are going to talk about this LIFE Orchids project. As you can see, Denmark below right corner, as a small country, about 43,000 square kilometers. We are situated in the southeastern part of Denmark on a small island called Møn, which lies in Vordingborg municipality, where I'm employed. Vordingborg municipality is a small municipality, about 620 square kilometers, and we have about 45,000 citizens. And it's in this area we are carrying out this LIFE Orchids project that we are going to present for you today. And as you can see, we are lying in the outermost southeastern corner of Denmark, almost out to the Baltic Sea, in this island of Møn. Yes, next. Thank you. First of all, Denmark is a country with more than 60% of the area where it's used for farming, and that makes us the most cultivated agricultural country or land in the world. So that's kind of a record. And actually, we only have 2% of the area which is designated as strictly protected nature. So, but luckily, we are working in one of the most biodiversity-rich hotspots in Denmark in this LIFE Orchids project. And now I'm going to present for you a few slides from the area, so that you can see how nature looks in Denmark. First photo here, you can see dry grassland with a beautiful alkaline fence with some of the rare orchids. And next. And again, we have these beautiful roaming calcareous dry grassland hills with lots of orchids. And actually, it's the best place for orchids in Denmark. We have about 18 different species in this area. Next. And here you can see a view of our project site, the southern part, and almost all this land you can see on the photo is a part of the project. Yes, as I said, it is a biodiversity hotspot in Denmark with lots of orchids and lots of other endangered, critically endangered species. The orchid you see in the picture is called the lady orchid, Orchid goborea, which has its biggest, the biggest population in Denmark is in our project site. Yep. We also have a very rare butterfly, which are part of the project called the large blue, Fengaris arion. And the project site is the only site where it's left in Denmark. It has been all over Denmark, but now this is the only place. So we are trying to make some huge effort to make new habitats and to work with this critical endangered species. Because if it disappears from this area, it's gone from Denmark. So, what is the LIFE Orchids project about? It is the main objectives you can see here. We are working to restore and connect existing and new EU priority dry grasslands and thereby secure favorable conservation status of habitats, orchids, butterflies, and other pollinators. And again, a little bit more specific, some of the main objectives. We are going to increase the dry grassland in the area with 72 hectares. We're going to connect and create new dry grassland in a 311 hectare large area. We're going to restore and designate 111 hectares of private land for strictly protected nature, and that's what we'll be talking about today. We're also going to obtain and secure a favorable conservation status for the large blue by establishing a supplementary breeding program and by improving the species habitats. And then we have this action for 5 specific endangered orchid species. And then, as Monica mentioned, we also have a task about raising awareness of our conservation hurdles and how we work with the public and with private landowners and other stakeholders in the project. Yep. Okay, in the project we have 7 project partners. Vordingborg Municipality, where I'm from, is the project leader, and then we have Klintholm Estate, which is a private estate owned by Carl Gustav and Inger Marie Scavenius, and Carl Gustav is from the estate is the next speaker. Then we have Ravn Nature, which is a private consultant company working with biodiversity. We have the Danish Nature Agency, which also is a landowner in the area. They own about 600 hectares of state land, state nature land. Then we have a dissemination center called Geocenter Møns Klint, which helps us disseminate our results. And then we have the cooperation with the ILO and Eurosite about this raising awareness that Monica already mentioned. The project has a budget about 5.5 million euros. I guess that's a little bit more in US dollars, a little bit more than 6 million US dollars. The financing of the project, 76% of the budget is coming from the European Union, the European Commission. They have a nature fund called LIFE Nature. And then we have some co-financing from 3 Danish nature foundations. And after Carl Gustav, you're going to hear Lars Mellemborg from Ove Jensen Nature Fund, which are one of the co-financers of the project. And the 3 foundations, they deliver about 20% of the project budget. And the rest is paid by the municipality and the other project partners. Okay, and now we are not going to talk about how we restore this area, but for the topic for today is to focus on the cooperation between the partners. And now I would like to focus on the main, what I call the main stakeholders in LIFE Orchids, and that is you can say the field-based stakeholders, and that is, as I mentioned, Vordingborg Municipality. We have been the initiators to the project together with Brown Nature. And then we have Clinton Estates, which is and they participate in the project with 111 hectares of farmland, plantation forest, and nature area. That's all being restored to highly protected permanent nature habitats. And then we also have the Danish Nature Agency, which participates with approximately 500 hectares of existing nature, and they are neighbors to Clinton Estate, as we can see in the next slide. Yes, this is the main project site. The black area is owned by Clinton Estate, and all the red areas is owned by the Danish Nature Agency. And the red areas to the left is the most biodiverse and species-rich dry grassland in Denmark, and also the red area lower right corner is also very species-rich with hundreds and thousands of orchids. So this private land with a black line is, as you can see, kind of a missing link between these two dry grassland, and together we have established more than 300 hectares large, extremely species-rich dry grassland. So, how did we get access to this private land conservation? Well, first of all, I will just introduce the Clinton Estate. Carl Gustav will go further into it after me. But just shortly, Clinton Estate is a family-run estate in 8th generation. They have about 1,000 hectares of plantation forest, farmland, nature areas, rental houses, hunting and campsite, nature tourism, farm shop, etc. And in Denmark, it's the municipalities that is responsible to act to secure and obtain good conservation status for habitats and species in a European biodiversity network called Natura 2000 on private land. So that's why we are engaged with, we are legally engaged, you can say, to try and talk to the landowners that have land in these areas. And that's what we have been doing with Clinton Estate. But the first thing I would like to emphasize is the private landowners' mindset. It's very important that we work with landowners that actually wish to change from traditional land use, farming and forest plantations, and to producing biodiversity, so to speak. And in our case, we are going to convert these land use types to strictly protected dry grasslands. So it's very important that they want to change their land use. And how did we achieve that in the project? Well, for many years we have had a fruitful dialogue with the estate owner, Carl Gustav, for many years, of the importance of saving endangered species and fight the biodiversity crisis on their land. So dialogue is very important. We have also initiated dialogue with other estate owners that has carried out similar large restoration projects. Yes? Yeah, that's it. Okay, and the second thing I would like to briefly emphasize is that we cannot make these projects without cool cash, because in Denmark we need to compensate the landowner for the drop in income and value of the land after we have changed the land use. And in our case, we succeeded to raising this money by to compensate and to the restoration activities by well, that was what I mentioned before. We got a large sum of money from the EU Commission, and then from the 3 Danish nature funds, and from the other project partners. But that's it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of hard work, and it's really important that these applications are widely based, or you can say with a lot of different stakeholders. Okay, and in our project, you can say what's the deal for the landowners and the nature? Well, we have been using a method where we have calculated a one-off compensation for changing the land use from plantation forest and agriculture to these permanent nature areas, and based on the difference of land value before and after, and that's and this one-off compensation is then paid to the Clinton estate, and these calculations are conducted by an unbiased national authority for land consolidation in Denmark. And then afterwards, the estate owner, Clinton, and the municipality has made an agreement about the nature restoration, and there has been put a permanent nature clause on the land saying that it can never go back to farmland or plantation forest, but it should forever be nature. And in this clause, there's also a phrase about the municipality that we actually have the possibility to take over the management, and we must also be involved in future conservation tasks in the area. We also help the estate owner to provide substitute land for his farming, where some of the one-off compensation money can be invested in new farmland. The future income on the area for the estate, that will come from grazing subsidies, from environmental schemes, CAP, Common Agricultural Policy, EU money and national Danish money. It's still allowed for the estate owners to hunt in the areas on the wild deers and wild deers. And then there's maybe can be an income about the and there are also some value in the ownership of having these high nature value landscapes. But I'm sure that Carl Gustav will tell you more about how and why they went into this project and what's their side on these things. So this is from our the municipality's point of view, so to speak. Yep, and next. Okay, so that was actually it. And if I just to say just a few things about the future for private land conservation in Denmark from a municipality perspective, I think it's very positive due to the increasing focus from the farmers on fighting the biodiversity crisis, and also delivering other ecosystem services, and in general the willingness we see to implement the green transition in Denmark. We have but we have other large estates who also wants to make these big nature restoration projects at their estate. But it requires, as I have said, can you go back? It requires an alternative to the traditional farming, and we need to deliver a good deal for the landowner to make this drastic change of land use, you can say. And of course, it requires a good cooperation between a lot of different stakeholders: municipality, state, private landowners, financiers, nature funds, and the general public. But I think we have with this LIFE Orchids project, and we have also had another LIFE project called LIFE Klima Bombina, also with a large estate. I think we have found a way of making a lot of new strictly protected areas, and I think that is also the topic for the day. It is very, very important we work with the private landowners, and I think if we do that large scale, we can turn the biodiversity crisis in general in Denmark. Yeah, and I think that was about it. Thank you for your attention. You can read more about our project on the lifeorchids.dk.
Hey, thanks, Carsten. So we now move rapidly to Carl.
Yeah, thank you very much, Angelo. I don't know if you have my presentation ready. You do. My name is Carl Gustav Scavenius. I am the lucky owner of Clinton Estate. You can see a picture from our home right here. And just to warn you, there will be some overlaps in my presentations compared to the Carsten's, but maybe I'll go a little bit further into some of the points as well. First of all, my family has owned this farm for the last 226 years. I'm the 7th generation, and today we have about 1,400 hectares. We used to have significantly more, but in the 80s and 90s, my dad sold the White Cliffs, which you saw a picture from early on, to the Danish Nature Agency. So the project area which the Danish Nature Agency has in this project is actually former Clinton Estate land. So we are happy that we can combine the ends once again. What we do today is traditional agriculture. We do traditional forestry. Then we have 300 hectares with our Hereford cows, which is the nature grazing, and obviously I'll get back to that. And then we have as I wouldn't say a new thing. I'm not quite there yet, but just a second. And as a new thing, we do more and more tourism. We have a campsite, we have a small hotel, we have a youth hostel and some summer houses. So that is, you could say our estate has two legs, the old and classic one and the new one in the tourism. And the reason why the tourism come to our place is because of the White Cliffs. So they actually come to view your nature and be in nature, which goes very much along with the whole project idea. So next slide, please. So this is me and my wife, Inger Marie. We have lived on the farm for the last 11 years. When we moved down here, we put a lot of thoughts into what should we actually do to make a happy life down here. How should we develop the farm? How should we take the farm into the future? How can we prepare the farm for the future? Because now we've owned it for more than 200 years. We would be very proud if we can own it again for at least another couple of 100 years. And the first thing we looked at was the farming. We didn't really find it to be, how do you say, made for the future. And I don't know if any of you has followed the Danish election. There's a lot of talk about that the way farming is today is not the way it could be in the future. We cannot use fertilizers anymore. We cannot use pesticides anymore. So I actually think that our thoughts 11 years ago were quite set for the future. One of the things we started to discuss as well, we should do permaculture farming. And we have a friend who does that very well and very successful. The main difference is that he had 10 people helping him on 1 hectare. And we have 2 people helping us on 600 hectares. So that wasn't really an ideal solution to go into that. But the way we found we could do it is via the cows and the nature grazing. We reintroduced the Hereford cows to our estate. My grandfather was the first in Denmark to introduce the Hereford cows. So we rewired them, and yes, it was fantastic to have the animals back on the farm again. So that in itself was a big advantage. And then we took out all the worst pieces of land we had and put the cows on that, so we could actually get more money from the subsidized than we could from hard work agriculture. We quickly began to see that the meat from the cows is actually how to put it, a residual income for us. The main reason for we have the cows is the nature grazing, and the nature is actually not the meat in itself. Today we have a farm shop where we can sell the meat, so it's a part of our storytelling, and it's a part of connecting the traditional farm to nature today. So we use it quite a lot, but it's nature that was the main reason for why we did it, and the possibilities to get the subsidies. And then again, as I said before, our guests in tourism, they come to see the nature. Now we can actually develop something else for them to see. We have a first-class nature via the cliffs, but we would also like to invite the guests back into the countryside to see what's behind the cliffs. So that's a big motivation for us as well. And so how did we get from that into the project? Basically, I think that the municipality, and that's you, Carsten, we had a meeting one day, and you said, well, all what you're doing is actually what we hope you were doing, and how we hope farming would be. So would you be interested to do this on a permanent basis? And I don't really think we thought that much about it before we said yes, because it's a really nice possibility for us, which we're quite happy about. So I think the entrance into the project was quite easy because we already did what we've now made permanent. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So what's in it for us? And I put a little bit pros and cons here to just to explain a little bit what of our thoughts been about it, because as I said, we have had thoughts before we went into projects. We still have thoughts about, is this the right thing for us? Obviously, we still think it is, but also what can we do different? Should we go into another nature project? How will that be for us? But definitely, we think that this project is something that we are very proud of. The way of being a part of developing the progress in the biodiversity, to increase the orchids, to increase the large blue population. We're really proud of this, and we are, I hope you think that too, Casper, we're playing an active part of it. I know some of our colleagues is just passive in the process, but it's really important for us to be an active partner in this. As I also said, it hasn't really changed that much because this is an extension of our current strategy. What's really interesting is that the municipalities with the funding from the project can come in and take this project to another level, which we couldn't do ourselves. So it's definitely a win-win. And then we have the amenity value. I think that where we live right now is a fantastic place, but this project definitely takes it even higher. So a little bit back to, we're proud of being here. We really enjoy this area. And to use the same words as Carsten, Cool Cash also plays is also a partner in this. Definitely that we get some money out, we can invest in something else, has been a catch for us at the right time, where there was some good opportunities. So that's been very much appreciated. So the next slide, please. So food for thought, that looks better than, that sounds better than cons. Basically, what has been our concerns about this? What has our thoughts been, which maybe could take in the negative direction? And being in the project, I can reveal that the positive by far outlines the negative sides. But of course, there are things that you talk about and think about. And first of all, this is permanent. I know in other countries, when you do something similar than this, it's for 99 years. In Denmark, this is permanent. So could we have had an alternative use in the future? Is this the right thing to do? Will my predecessors look back and think this is the most stupid decision you can ever make? I don't know, but it's my decision, and I think that, again, we got some money out of this, which we can invest in something else that has opened up some other doors. So I'm quite confident that we've made the right decision, but obviously you never know what's going to be in the future. And just jumping down to the alternative use, could we have used this alternatively in the future? Right now, I can't really see it as such, but you never know what's going to happen. And a lot of this project is, for example, South Hill slopes with a lot of chalk in the underground, which is perfect wine. Maybe we could be the new Champagne district. Well, then we have to find some other fields for that, but because these are now reserved for nature. And then one of the things that I still think a lot about, thinking about, should we go into new projects? Because we're definitely going into new projects. We want to expand this because we have a lot of opportunities that other farms don't have in Denmark. But I think it's just, for me at least, interesting to think about, so what are we actually getting subsidized for? As it is right now, and Carsten came with a brief and good explanation, we are being subsidized for what we lose in agriculture value. But theoretically, we could just as well have been subsidized in the first-class nature opportunities that the EU and others buy into this. So I think there should be some, you could have a first-class field somewhere that could get twice as much subsidized as me, but doesn't have any nature value at all. So I think it's worth, at least for me, and I'm a bit subjective here, worth thinking about, is it really the bad agricultural land which you get subsidized for, or should we actually also look at the opportunities we have in our area? And finally, public access. The more nature you have, the more beautiful nature, more fantastic nature, of course, that attracts more people. For us, this has definitely not been any issue at all. These areas, these 111 hectares, doesn't lie in our backyard. It lies at a certain distance, but it's also going hand in hand with our nature tourism strategy and our goal to show our tourists here or our guests here that there's more to our beautiful island than just the cliffs. The fields in the background are just as magnificent. And I think that was more or less it. One more slide, I think, is just say thank you. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Carl. Very nice presentation, really lovely, and also very clear. Now we move to Lars, and then we will have some time for Q&A.
Thank you, and welcome to everyone on this presentation. We have heard a lot about the projects of LIFE Orchids. I will make a short introduction to the foundations of 5th of June and Ove Jensen Nature Foundation. We both work with private land conservation, and if we go to the next, we share some of the same aims of how to work. We both protect and develop nature and its values, and make it accessible and visible to the society. We improve functionality and resilience of ecosystems and habitats through partnerships, and partnerships is quite meaningful for us. There's a difference between the two foundations, and that is we are large landowner. 5th of June is not, but still we have a lot of in common, and we work together on a lot of other projects. We have shared the same vision. Together we deliver develop a richer nature, larger, more and better. Next. I will start the presentation telling a little bit of Ove Jensen Nature Foundation. As you can see, we are right now the largest private landowner in Denmark, but that was not initially the idea when we started 40 years ago. The idea was to help the state to buy land and give it to the state, but having a few experiences that some of the areas were sold on for other purposes, we decided to be to create a new foundation in its own right, being able to own land and secure it forever. So we protect, we restore, we manage nature. Next. In connection to our areas, research and management is very important. We try to be in, as you heard from Carsten, Denmark is the most farmed land, both forestry and farmland. It takes up all our land outside villages and cities. And nature has a very little place. And ecosystem restoration is a big thing to understand how to do. And we have a lot of scientific projects like Restinok, where we are finding out how to transplant inoculum from other find areas and seeds, as some of the we see here in the project of LIFE Orchid. What works the best to transform farmland and forestry areas. And at the same time in Denmark, we try to do more at the same time. How can we build up carbon storage, have nutrient detention, and secure biodiversity at the same time? And we have a big project with restoring water levels in the landscape and seeing how it works in these fields. Next. Both of the foundations donate about 8 to 10 million euro per year on different kinds of projects. And some of the criteria is that every project should be quality enhancing and beneficial to many. We are working with projects that are lasting and have long-term impacts. It can be educational, informative, and mobilizing. All projects should have that in it. And it's very central for us to have projects that works in new ways to get more wisdom and a knowledge of how to do things, because management for biodiversity is a new exercise going from farmed land, and we have to learn how to do that. It's not about management for a species or for a certain habitat. We are talking about big areas, whole integrity of ecosystems. And of course, synergies and replicability is central for these projects. And partnerships between relevant stakeholders. When we work with universities, we often demand more than one institute. We want two different institutes from different universities to work together that gets better agreement of solutions. And everyone can apply for this. We have public authorities, research institutions, NGOs, larger landowners, etc. And both of us have 3 to 4 open calls per year. Next, please. We just 2 weeks ago sent out a call for scientists, managers, and landowners to work together for a bit richer nature. And we support projects that are new and improved ways demonstrate how a rich terrestrial nature in Denmark can be developed with high biodiversity as the goal. So we are looking on cost-effective methods for restoring natural dynamics, creating habitats and valuable nature in former agricultural landscapes, and new and better ways of using grazing animals in nature management. We have a big discussion also of animal welfare at the same time in Denmark. And the third thing is that climate change is a big thing, and how do we make robust nature for the future? That's a part of the call as well. Next. Some of our donations goes to EU LIFE projects. Carsten told you about this EU foundations. They are on the verge of being stopped because of new needs for army and so on in Europe, but hopefully they will stand. They are essential for many projects in Europe. And every year we support several Danish LIFE projects, sometimes together, LIFE Orchids. We don't have time to be a partner, so we will be an affiliated partner or donor to projects. But it's a good way of bringing private and public landowners together in larger projects and create these public-private partnerships. And if you go to the next slide, LIFE Orchid is a very good showcase of it, having a very positive landowner that can see possibilities in creating nature and helping. We can do some of the work of finding compensation for the losses and of rights he gets by this project. We like to have this cooperation between private landowner and the Danish Nature Agency. And the projects also show new ways of creating new nature, showing new ways of calcareous limestone areas that we haven't tried before in Denmark. And the project also, as you have invited us, there are partnerships with international and professional managers that brings this project further out in the world. And what also meant a lot for us to go into this project was it was preserved indefinitely. Please, yeah, I think my colleague from 5th of June Foundation will take over for the last 2 slides.
Thanks, Lars. Just to make a brief sort of presentation of how the foundations there wants to or try to mitigate challenges as we see them in private land conservation. I mean, this is also perhaps a follow-up on what Carl Gustav presented to us, because I mean, what we're looking for here is to find incentives for private landowners for joining, the efforts for conservation on private land. And what we see in Denmark, at least, is what I have outlined in the last bullet here. We simply need to change laws and orders and schemes for that regulate the land use in Denmark, as laws basically have been produced a long time ago for supporting production, agriculture and forestry. Now we simply need to turn it around in order to have orders and schemes that support nature conservation instead of production type of land use. Another key challenge, as we see it, is that also in this little country, Denmark, we have absolutely no official recognition of ecosystem services. Basically, what the ecosystems and nature provide to us is not taken into account financially. So things like, groundwater protection, climate mitigation, recreational values, mental health services, etc., are simply not recognized, and that leaves us with the question: who will actually pay for enabling private landowners to join with resources, with initiatives in this task? As Carl Gustav said, there are lots of benefits for joining projects like LIFE Orchids and the whole idea of supporting private initiatives in nature conservation. But it takes money. So someone will have to pay. Can we have the next slide, please? So, and just briefly again, we as nature foundations can do some things. And first of all, we believe, as Lars said before, that partnerships, private-public partnerships, are one of the ways to proceed here in order to broaden the understanding of the importance and the benefits of having both public and private landowners and institutions to work together on nature conservation schemes and projects. We can also, Lars and I can also initiate demonstration projects that simply demonstrate and show benefits from also in terms of ecosystem services and recreational societal values, etc. One of the things that we definitely support constantly and all the time is that we support scientific knowledge and experience, so that we can facilitate the generation, the establishment of knowledge, data, experience, nature matrix, and so on, so that at least we have the tools available for both institutions and also private landowners who will actually like to get some kind of information of what are the actual or concrete benefits from joining initiatives like this. One of the key things that we believe in, Lars and I, and also other nature foundations, is that when we support or facilitate fora and processes, we sort of support this, as I have written here in the bullet next from the bottom. Bringing understanding will also facilitate a greater awareness, and by that, and also perhaps a greater and more significant engagement and mobilization of not only private landowners, but also the civil society in the broad sense, and thereby enable action and political support. We simply believe that this chain of reaction here is important to at the end of the day also to gain a much more significant political support of nature conservation, but also things like, as I said before, ecosystem services and so on. Just for your information, a well-known concept for you called nature-based solutions is almost unknown in Denmark, and definitely not applied in Danish nature management. And lastly, of course, we can also basically support, development of larger and smaller biodiversity strategies, thereby also providing another set of tools for what is necessary for bringing about the understanding of and the some approach to nature conservation projects, whether they are private or public, or publicly based. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Lars. Thank you, Stefan. That was great. Now, I have negotiated with Robin and the other organizers if we could extend a bit our meeting. Otherwise, we would have no time for question and answer. So I would first invite all the panelists to stay with us another 15 minutes, and also all our audience to stay with us, because sometimes there is a lot of juicy stuff that comes under Q&A. So we already have 3 questions. The first one, I think it's most likely for Karsten. So Karsten, they want to know, under Danish law, is there any reduction in real property taxes otherwise due if the land is subject to an agreement between the landowner and municipality that you mentioned? And second, are there any income tax incentives under Danish law for landowners to compensate the lost revenue who engage, owners who engage in the kind of land restoration management activities that you shared?
I think it was 2 tough questions. I do not know much about tax. I think the answer is no to both of them, actually.
Okay. So that's one of the things that happen quite frequently in Europe. God knows why, because...
well, maybe Carl Gustav can...
Carl, do you know anything about it?
Compliment on the compensation amount.
Yes,
and the way to...
I agree that it's no to both questions. Definitely the first one. The second one, it is such that when I get my compensation from the projects, I can choose between roughly, of course, there are more opportunities, but the 2 big opportunities is that I can reinvest it in land, and in that way, I wouldn't be taxed because I replace the money, or I can keep the money and then I would be taxed. And I understand your question. I think it's a good question. I think it would generate so much more nature and private land if there was no tax on these projects.
But this is a very frequent issue across the globe. I mentioned to you before the Chilean experience. Also there, they are struggling with tax incentives. While if you take the easements approach in the US, our American friends probably can correct me if I'm wrong. There you have quite a number of tax incentives, whether at federal level, mostly at state level, including in some cases the zeroing of the transfer of property to your heirs. So, and this is a big obstacle when it's not there, obviously. Then there is a question for Carl. Could you provide more details on your business model? So they want to know if you're still farming or where does your money come from to make a living?
Most of our money actually comes from the tourism. But the question just disappeared. Okay.
Yeah, it disappeared. Yeah, I don't know why.
I found it again. So most of our money came from the tourism, but we still have a big part coming from our forestry, which we farm without any pesticides or any fertilizing.
Mm-hmm.
We have 300 hectares, which is our nature. I think that's also one of the questions where our cows is grazing, and that's the nature leg of our business. And then we have 550 hectares, which is traditional agriculture, where we are fertilizing and pesticides, and we would like to change that. We just don't know how, because it's very expensive to change it to the ways we would love to do farming. And just to go to, for example, organic farming, we don't find that the right solution, because that's very CO2 intensive. So we haven't really found the right business model for the rest of our farming. We get a small EU subsidized for traditional farming, and we get a significantly higher subsidized for our nature grassing. And I think there was a question more, do you think our model is replicable? Yes, I think it's very easy replicable. I think that, first of all, on all the worst pieces of land we have, we're better off making nature rather than food. So it's quite easy. It also, there's a lot of good things about it. I would also say that if we were not subsidized, it wouldn't make sense at all, because the amount of money we're using on salaries and machines to keep the fences, we don't even get 20% from the meat sale to cover that. So the subsidies are essential on this.
If I can add, I would say that there's a reason that we have 5 or 6 nature foundations buying up land in Denmark, because it is money that is willing to pay for land to change it into nature, because it's so slow in other ways for private owners to go into this as it is now. So it has become a second solution, maybe not the best, to be private owned by foundations instead of landowners that live in the area and will manage it by themselves. There was another question some Luke Gielan had to, does the Nature Fund also support, stimulate international cooperation on EU level? And we do it through the LIFE projects, of course, but it is a central part of our foundations, both of us, to have international support as much as it is possible. We don't like to have projects that only focuses in our little own country and thinking we do the best. So we are asking all projects to have extensions out to other international partners to take the best wisdom back to Denmark to make the best projects. So, and we will also finance external partners, but they have to take place in Denmark. We can only support projects in Denmark.
Okay.
Will you add anything, Stefan? No. Okay.
No. Okay. So one curiosity from me, Carl, you mentioned a number of reasons why you accepted to devote these 111 hectares to nature forever. I have met quite a number of people in my experience that were in the same situation as yours, and they told me that one of the main driver was that since they experienced that land the way it was, and they loved it the way it was, they wanted their hair to be able to have the same kind of experience. So this idea of protecting a piece of land forever, you said, Carl, that it might be a stupid idea for somebody in the future, but in reality, they took it exactly to protect that somebody from destroying that piece of land. Was it part of your decision? Did you think about it, or?
Oh, Angelo, I'm totally spoiled on this. We have so much beautiful nature. So actually, no, I didn't really see it that way.
Okay.
But I could just as well do it, because I want to be. I'm quite sure that we will have beautiful landscapes here also in the future. So it could just as well be an argument, but I didn't really think about it that way, no.
Okay, lovely. At least one difference between US and us. I think there is a question about how could it, who could reply to that? Karsten, Carl, whoever wanted. Are there any cluster initiative in Denmark that link farms and estates together at landscape scale for efficiency and to enable trade-offs between productive agriculture and space for nature? Which, to a certain extent, I think LIFE Orchid is an example of that kind.
Yes, well, I think that was, yeah. I think we, as I recall, we do not have, like one cluster initiative, but we have a lot of project-based initiatives like the LIFE Orchids, and the question, that's actually what we are trying to do in the project. Also, we are using a lot of energy in bringing these estate owners together, both estate owners from Denmark, but also state owners from the rest of Europe in our cooperation with the ILO and Eurosite. And we did it as well in our last project, LIFE Klima Bombina, where we had more than 60 field visits with almost all important, or you could say large landowners with the Natura 2000 sites in Denmark. They visited the Knuds Hovedodde, and I think also because the Cliffs of Møn and Carl Gustav's estate, as everyone in Denmark knows the place. I think we will also use a lot of time spreading this initiative and the methods and the results from the projects to other large landowners and all other nature foundations and ministries and departments as well.
And maybe I just add to that, because a part of the question is also whether there's clusters between productive agriculture, and there's a lot of that in Denmark. It just doesn't go beyond that to cover nature.
Great. So I think we finished the questions and we finished the time, and we have spoiled your afternoon with a bit of an extension, but it was really a very interesting meeting. And my hope is that first, what you have achieved in Denmark will be of inspiration to other countries, your neighbor countries, or even farther away. That Carl will be available in the future to be an ambassador of private land conservation, because there are many other Carls around Europe that probably don't even know about this possibility, and that we will be able in a reasonable amount of time to achieve, if not as much as the US, at least half of it in terms of private land conservation, because Natura 2000, it's we don't have precise statistics, but the estimates, they say that it's at least 50% in the hands of private owners. So either we do it with them or we don't do it. So I think this is the end of the meeting for me. I want to thank ILCN for the support, and Eurosite as well. They really helped putting together a very interesting meeting. We hope that we'll have more in the future. Thanks to everyone, and unless there is anybody else that wants to add a final word, I think we can go and have a sip of tea and maybe a couple of biscuits.
Thank you.
So enjoy the rest of the afternoon or the evening.
Thank you for organizing a nice meeting.
Yes, thank you very much for letting us participate.
Take care.
Thank you.
Sorry we went over time. Bye-bye.
Bye.